Welcome to the Beyond the Leash podcast, the show where we dive into the world of service dog, unleashing the truth, breaking down those barriers, and going beyond the leash. I am your host, Service Dog Educator. My co-hostie is not here, but we have a special guest, Austin Bentley, also known as Two Vets on here, who is a partner in crime of mine as well, business partner, and much more. Please, we all go check him out as well. But we are doing the podcast differently today, as you may see. You all see my face. Hello, I am Service Dog Educator. If you've never seen my face before, normally I don't show my face, but there's been some accusations going around that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the ADA, and I thought we would make a little segment of the podcast of going over all the frequent asked questions in the ADA, and a friend of mine who knows the ADA just as much as I do, quizzes me on it, and see how much I get right. You're more than welcome to look these up yourselves and see how many you see that I get right or wrong during this time. But sit back, get ready to watch and learn more about the ADA to help you in court or any other reasonings. But let's get this party started. Two Vets, I'm going to let you start going, and then you can ask your first question. And we're going to get this party rolling.
I can answer my first question?
What question's being asked? Sorry. I said that so wrong.
All right. In accordance with the ADA, what is the definition of a service animal?
The definition of a service animal is a dog or a miniature horse that is specifically trained to mitigate a disability by doing tasking.
Very well. What does to do work or perform task mean?
The work that the dog is trained to perform or the task that the person trained to perform. It could either be a trainer, the owner, or a professional of some sort.
Right, but what does that mean? Like, what does to do work or perform task mean?
To mitigate the disability.
Okay.
Such as are you wanting an example of the task?
No, like define it just a little bit more. I was like,
the dog is specifically trained to mitigate a disability by doing tasking. Like such as if you're blind, you have a dog that guides you. That's the tasking.
Okay. So it's a task that is specific to the disability.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was kind of meaning.
Okay.
I'm gonna step on an animal.
Are emotional support, therapy, comfort, or companion animals considered service animals under the ADA?
No.
Why?
Because they are not task trained to mitigate a disability, and it's not a task related to somebody's disability.
Okay. If someone's dog calms them when they are having an anxiety attack, does this qualify it as a service animal?
That's a yes and no, depending on what the dog does. If the dog does a deep pressure therapy that somebody trained it to do, then yes, that would be a task. But if it's just the presence of the animal being there, then no, it is not a task.
Okay, say that again.
So if the dog is for example, an anxiety service dog, like a psychiatric service dog, they do help calm people, but they're still task trained. So they do deep pressure therapy, behavioral disruptions, or something that somebody trained them to do, to the tasking to mitigate it. That could be considered a service dog. But if the sheer presence of that animal makes them feel better, then no, that is not a task related to their disability and not a service animal.
Okay. So I'm just going to read off the direct answer. It depends. The ADA makes a distinction between psychiatric service animals and emotional support animals. If the dog has been trained to sense that an anxiety attack is about to happen and take specific action to help avoid the attack or lessen the impact, it would qualify as a service animal. However, if the dog's mere presence provides comfort, that would not be considered a service animal under the ADA.
I got it right. I told you it was a trick question, that one.
Does the ADA require service animals to be professionally trained?
No, they can be owner trained.
What?
No, they can be owner trained.
Since when
They
did
don't
that
have to.
happen?
Oh, you like literally scared the crap out of me right there. I was like, what do you mean?
Come on now, I ain't gonna, you know, I gotta throw a little bit, you know. No, people with disabilities have the right to train service dogs themselves and are not required to use professional service dog training programs. For the
I
record,
really care this all the time.
for the record, I was fucking with her.
Give me a heart attack over here.
All right. Are service animals in training considered service animals under the ADA?
Under the ADA, no, but certain states can allow them public access rights.
That would be correct. Under the ADA, dogs must already be trained before it can be taken into public. However, some states or local laws cover animals that are still in training. It is behooving know your state and federal or know your state and local laws before going out into public access. Just a little word to the wise. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. Uh, what questions can a covered entity employee ask to determine if the service dog is a working dog?
Is that a service dog required for a disability, and what task or work is it trained to perform?
Any other questions?
No.
Not like what's his favorite dog food or, you
I
know,
mean, they can ask that, but we don't have to answer it.
gotcha. Alrighty. So that is correct. Do service animals have to wear a vest, patch, or special harness identifying them as a service animal?
No. We don't have to have any specific labeling under a service dog.
Why not?
I mean, it doesn't really talk about it in the law, but there are specific reasons why some people may not want to, such as like disability reasons, financial reasons, weather reasons, or even just safety reasons in general. But it also doesn't make the dog a service dog either. It's just about the training that that dog went through. It's not really about like what label you can put on the dog.
Gotcha. Okay. Who is responsible for the care and supervision of the service animal?
The handler is responsible for the care of the service animal, but if the handler is incapacitated, such as they're in the hospital, they can have a secondary handler to take over for the service dog, but it cannot be staff members such as like nurses or hospital care team to take over. It has to be somebody that is trained or not doesn't necessarily have to be trained with the dog, but is outside of the hospital round, if that makes sense.
It does, but because I as much as I know the questions, what I can tell you is you're blurring a couple of questions together. But yes, you are
Right. I
correct.
just wanted to like because some people would be like, "Well, this is in this," so I wanted to say, you know. you can have a secondary handler. But
That is
technically, it
absolutely
is the main handler is responsible for the dog itself or the miniature horse.
the handler is responsible for caring and supervising of the service animal, which includes toileting, feeding, grooming, veterinary care. Covered entities are not obligated to supervise or otherwise care for the service animal.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, yes, you are correct. However, there was a little bit of bleeding
Yeah, I know.
into this answer, and I just wanted to let you know, yes, you are correct, and I wanted to tell the viewers, yes, she is correct. However, there is part of another answer that was looped in. So, but yeah. All right. Can a person bring a service animal with them as they go through the salad bar or other self-service food lines?
Yes, they just can't go into the kitchen area where the food is being prepared.
That would be correct. Service animals must be allowed to accompany their handlers to and through self-service food lines. Similarly, service animals may not be prohibited from commercial food preparation or yeah, may not be prohibited from commercial food preparation areas such as commonly found in shelters or dormitories. What that means is where the public is allowed to go,
Service animals.
if the service dog is allowed to go with their handler. Now, going back in the kitchen, completely different rules. Service dog's not allowed to go back in there. So, just for the listener, giving you guys that information. Alrighty,
Context.
bingo. Um, Question number 11. Can hotels assign designated rooms for guests with service animals out of consideration for other guests?
So no, I'm gonna say generally no, uh, because that could be discrimination. But if it's like accommodations for the handler, that's like it has to be a specific room because the handler wants it. That's okay. But for them to alienate them and say you have to go into this room, no.
That would be correct. A good rule of thumb is if it applies to all dogs, it will apply to service dogs as well. However, just based on this question alone, uh, the answer would be no. Uh, a guest with disabilities who uses a service animal must be provided the same opportunity to reserve any available room at a hotel as other guests without disabilities. They may not be restricted to pet friendly rooms. Just for context.
Yeah.
By the way, are you picking up on what I'm putting down whenever I
Mm,
read the answers?
yeah. Well, you did this the last time. I thought I was wrong every time, and I was like, "Am I saying things wrong?" Like well, like I may be saying it differently, but I'm saying the same thing, right? I got you now.
Can hotels charge a cleaning fee for guests who have service animals?
Just in general, no, but if the dog did damage, then yes. So if the dog had significant amount of damage done to the property, then they can charge. But if it's just a general like cleaning fee, no.
You're 100% spot on. Hotels are not permitted to charge guests for cleaning of the hair or dander shed by the service animal. However, if a guest service animal causes damages to the guest room, hotels are permitted to charge the same fee for the ones without the use of service animals.
Hmm.
Ooh, This one's more up my alley, but uh, this might be your question too. Can people bring more than one service animal into a public space?
Yes, they can do tandem teaming of a service dog. It's up to two service dogs.
Okay, real world question. Uh, we're only allowed two dogs when
Per
we're out.
handler. Yeah.
Really?
Two service dogs per handler. Yeah.
I mean,
So, for example, if let's say like you have a medical issue and a psychological issue, you can have one dog trained for psychiatric, one trained for medical, and then that is legally allowed. Or if you're like training one and the other one's reliably trained, that can also be okay. But you can
mm,
have up to two service dogs for per one person. If it's for different individuals, you can have a group of them, of course, but just one
hmm
individual, it's two.
okay. Now that I didn't know, but I mean, I could see that.
See, guys, this is why I'm the professional. Just kind of dust my shoulders off a little bit.
Does a hospital have to allow an inpatient with a disability to keep a service animal in his or her room?
Yes, but they still have to have the secondary handler, of course.
Generally,
Unless it's a
yes.
burn unit, unless it's a burn unit or somewhere that is sanitary, then they can reasonably deny. But if it's general hospital like patient room or a waiting area or somewhere where anyone can go in, yes, they have to allow the service animal in.
That would be correct. Generally, yes. Service animals must be allowed in patient rooms and anywhere else in the hospital. The public and patients are allowed to go. They cannot be excluded on the grounds the staff provide the same services. Now, under the burn units and operating, no, that they're not allowed there.
Yeah. Well, generally they're not allowed. I've heard sometimes, like depending on surgery, they may allow the service animal, but it's like very like 1% chance.
Mm. Depending on the type of surgery, I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
What happens if a patient who uses a service animal is admitted to the hospital and is unable to care or supervise their service animal?
They have to have a secondary handler to take over the responsibility of the dog to take the dog out, feed the dog, and do the necessary care for the dog if the patient cannot leave the hospital.
That would be correct. If a patient is unable to care for the service animal, the patient can make arrangements for a family member or friend to come to the hospital and provide these services, as it's always preferable that the service animal and the handler not be separated or keep the dog during the hospitalization. If the patient is unable to care for the dog and unable to make arrangements for someone else to care for the dog, the hospital may place the dog in a boarding facility until the patient is released or makes other appropriate arrangements. However, the hospital must give the patient an opportunity to make these arrangements for the dog's care before taking such steps.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if they don't have like a secondary handler, then they have to make arrangements for the dog, or if the person's incapacitated, they have to call animal control, and they do allow like the dog to be released to another person.
Yes. Must a service animal be allowed to ride in the ambulance with its handler?
Yes, if there is a enough space to accommodate the service dog, they must be allowed in the ambulance, or somebody must take it in a separate car, such as a police officer or somebody who is related to the patient or secondary handler to the dog.
Yeah, so this answer Generally, yes. However, the space in the ambulance is crowded, and the dog's presence would interfere with the emergency medical staff's ability to treat the patient. Staff would make other arrangements to have the dog transported to the hospital. Um, you know, so I mean, situation dictates. Depending on the size of your dog, depending, if you're conscious or unconscious. From that standpoint, um, I always hate giving this answer. Situation dictates, but
Mhm.
there's always that 1% chance, that it can go against us.
Yeah,
But
they just have to try and make an accommodation for the dog, but if it's not feasible, they can definitely deny the dog.
yes, so this portion we're going to get into certifications. Does the ADA require service animals to be certified as service animals?
No, there is no certification, registration, or IDs for service dogs that are federally recognized. And any online sites that you can purchase a certification, registration, or an ID are considered scams under the ADA and not legalized. But there are voluntary registrations that are not enforced, but you can voluntarily do it.
That would be correct. Uh, Covered entities may not require documentation such as proof of the animal has been certified, trained, or licensed as a service animal as a condition of entry. Now, there are individual organizations that sell service animal certification registration documents that are online, i.e., uh, service dog registration, and the uh, and so on and so forth. These documents do not convey any right under the ADA, and the Department of Justice does not recognize them as proof that the dog is a service animal. Alrighty, moving on to question number 18. My city requires all dogs to be vaccinated. Does this apply to my service animal?
Yes.
Why?
Because general rule of thumb, if they're requiring all dogs to be vaccinated, your dog has to. But that's a requirement under the ADA that all dogs have to have proper vaccines and proper care in order to be service dogs to be allowed out in public.
The answer to this question is individuals who have service animals are not exempt from local animal control or public health requirements. So, yes, we would fall under that. Uh, Question number 19. My city requires all dogs to be registered and or licensed. Does this apply to my service dog, to my service animal or service dog?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have an explanation?
Because again, it's under the whole dog thing. If it's specifically to like license only service dogs, like they have to have a specific license, then no. But just licensing under the county or the state itself, because it applies to all dogs, it applies to service dogs.
Okay. My city requires me to register my dog as a service dog. Is this legal under the ADA?
Say that one more time.
My city requires me to register my dog as a service animal. Is
That's
this
illegal.
legal under. Okay.
Because they
Why?
cannot enforce a registration or a certification or any type of specific training for that dog. They can do voluntary, but they cannot make it a requirement.
Mandatory registration for service animals is not permissible under the ADA. However, as stated above, service animals are subject to the same same licensings and vaccination rules as apply to all dogs. Alrighty, my city and or college offers a voluntary registry program for people with disabilities who use service animals and provide a special tag identifying them as a service dog. Is this legal under the ADA?
Yes, because it's voluntary. You don't
Bingo.
have to do it.
So the answer reads such as colleges and other entities such as local governments may offer voluntary registries, and I want to highlight voluntary registries. Many communities maintain a voluntary registry that serves a public purpose, as an example, to ensure that emergency staff know to look for service animals during an evacuation process, or to offer a benefit such as a reduced dog license fee. Individuals who register their service animals registries for purpose like this are permitted under the ADA. An entity may not, however, require that the dog be registered as a service animal as a condition of being permitted in public places. That would be a violation.
Yeah, if they're like showing it to gain access, then that could be a violation. Yeah.
Noel, we will get to that question later on, so just hang on to it. Can animals, or so this actually goes into type of breeds. Can service animals be any breed of dog?
Yes, any type of dog breed they can be. I know this doesn't really state this in the ADA too much, but I do want to say like all breeds except like hybrids such as wolf dogs or coyote dogs or wild breeds, those are not permitted because those don't have vaccines like no like they're not proven to work on those types of animals. But a regular domesticated dog breed, yes, any of one of those are allowed to be service dogs.
The ADA does not restrict any type of dog breeds that can be of service animal. Where the restrictions come in is if I am a 6 foot tall individual and I am coming in saying my 2 foot dachshund is used for stability. Yeah, that's a wrong song ding dong. That ain't gonna fly. But you have a 5'2", person coming in with a Great Dane or Presa Canario saying, "Yeah, I use them for stability." Yeah, that tracks. So, but as far as a designated breed, it's any type of breed. Can individuals with disabilities be refused access to a facility based solely on the breed of their service animal?
No.
Why no?
Because that would fall into there's no restriction on breeds, and that would be discrimination. Because any dog breed can be a service dog.
Okay. The answer would be no. A service animal may not be excluded based on the assumption or stereotype, of the animal, or how the animal might behave. However, if there is a particular service animal behaves in a way that poses a direct threat to the health or safety of others, has a history of such behavior, or is not under control of the handler, uh, that animal may be excluded. If an animal is excluded for such reason, staff must still offer their goods or services to the person without the animal present. Alrighty, moving on.
Yep.
If a municipality has an ordinance that bans certain type of dog breeds, Does this apply to my service animal? What does that
No.
mean? Uh, so
So
if there,
go ahead. Sorry.
if there is a ban on pit bulls, but my dog is a service dog and is a breed of a pit bull, does this apply to my service dog?
No. Because again, it
Okay.
goes under there's no breed restriction under the ADA, but that doesn't mean they can't make your life a living hell because of that breed. I've known individuals that live in a state to where, like, for example, Rotties are banned, and if the dog makes a single growl, they're calling it a non-service animal, or they makes a single mistake, they're calling it a non-service animal and fining the individual. So it can be very difficult, especially public access wise, but just in general, no.
Bingo. Municipalities that prohibit specific breeds of dogs must take an exception for the service animals of prohibited breeds unless the dog poses a direct threat to the health or safety of others. Under the direct threat provision, the ADA local jurisdictions need to determine on a case by case basis whether a particular service animal can be excluded based on that particular animal's actual behavior or history. But they may not exclude the service animal because of fear or generalization about how an animal or breed might behave. It is important yet imperative to note that the breed restrictions differ significantly from the jurisdiction to jurisdiction. In fact, some jurisdictions have no breed restrictions.
Really quick, I want to answer Christina. Yes, this question applies to it under the Fair Housing Act. There cannot be any breed restrictions for ESAs, dog breed wise, as well.
All right, so now we're actually getting into exclusions. When can service animals be excluded?
From hospital burn units or any sanitary areas, also religion areas as well, anywhere that's a place of worship, and also indigenous lands as well. I'm trying to think of anything. Private homes as well.
Yes,
I'm
you
trying
are
to think of if there's
correct.
anything that I'm missing. I think I'm missing one or two.
But I'm asking more from a definitional or from a definition standpoint.
I mean, there are so okay. Repeat the question then.
When can service animals be excluded
In like a general sense,
in a general sense?
if the dog is misbehaving, pooping, peeing, barking out of control, and the handler cannot gain control of the dog. Sorry, I thought you meant spaces. That's the only time really that they can deny one. Am I
What
right? I
about
think I'm.
what about when it would fundamentally alter?
Oh yeah, if it fundamentally alters the place, like if it's bringing like undue hardship onto the business, then yeah, that as well. I forgot that one. I did forget.
Um, the ADA does not require covered entities to modify policies, practices, or procedures if it would fundamentally alter the nature of the goods and services or activities of the provided to the public, nor does it overrule legitimate safety requirements. If admitting a service animal would fundamentally alter the nature of services or program, the service animal may be prohibited. In addition, if a particular service animal is out of control, the handler does not take specific action to control it, or if it's not housebroken, the animal may be excluded. So we actually might get into this a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. Where fundamentally altering goods and services, comes in. If I go to the zoo, well, that's where predator and prey, based off of the dog and whatever animal that's on display. Matter of fact, I've been to the zoo with my service animal, and uh, there was a cat. I think it was either a lynx or a lion that saw Leo and just went off. I was told by the staff, if my dog has a reaction, the uh, or the animal that's on display, if they have a reaction, keep moving, get out of the sight of that animal, and then continue on doing that. And then of course they can actually restrict you where you're allowed to go.
Hmm.
When might a service dog's presence fundamentally alter the nature of services or program provided to the public?
uh, Behavioral wise, or if, like, for example, like the bird aviary, if it's causing issues for the animals or causing distress, they can that can alter the business. um, I'm trying to think of what else of an example I could use. um, Certain spaces, such as like um, it's mainly for animals, like like in zoo areas, is where it could fundamentally hurt somebody because of predator versus prey. Really, everywhere else is not really like excluded from it. I mean, like unless you can definitively prove that the nature of that animal being there puts a harm on your business, then you might be excused. But unless you can prove that, and it's very hard to prove that, it's mainly just like in bird aviaries and like stuff like that.
Absolutely. So, essentially, what both of us have said, in most settings, the presence of the service animal will not result in fundamental alterations. However, in some exceptions, for example, at a boarding school, service animals could be restricted to a specific area of a dormitory reserved specifically for students with allergies of dog dander. At a zoo, animals that can be restricted from areas of the animals on display at the nature prey versus predator of the dog, where presence of the dog would be disruptive, causing where the displayed animal to be aggressive or become agitated. They cannot be restricted from other areas of the zoo. Um,
Yeah.
Alrighty, so this question, uh, it's one question, but it's a three part question.
I'm ready.
What does under control mean? Do service animals have to be on a leash? And do they have to be quiet and not bark?
For the first one, under control means the dog is abiding by the commands of the handlers, such as leash control or like signs from the handler. Like some of you may seem like I just did do this, or I point down, and Leo will sit. That's hand signals to control it. They can also be controlled by voice, such as sit, stay, e-collars as well. No, the service dog does not have to be leashed if the task or the leash interferes with the disability. And then what was the last one?
Do they have to be quiet and not bark?
Uh, they cannot be disturbing, but if the dog is trained in a bark alert, they can bark to alert to the handler, as long as it's a
So,
task that it's trained.
So the answer to this question would be the ADA requires that service animals be under control of the handler at all times. In most instances, the handler will be the individual with the disability or a third party who accompanies the individual with the disability. In the 12 or in the school K through 12 context and similar settings, the school or similar entity may need to provide some assistance to enable a particular student to handle his or her service animal. The service animal must be harnessed, leashed, or tethered while in public places unless the device interferes with the service animal's work or the person's disability prevents the use of these devices. In that case, the person must use voice, signal, or other effective means to maintain control of the service animal. For an example, who uses a wheelchair may use a long retractable leash to allow their service animal to pick up or retrieve items. Uh, he or she may not allow the dog to wander away from from him or her and must maintain control of the dog even if it's retrieving an item at a distance from him or her. Or, in my case, a returning veteran who has PTSD and has great difficulty entering unfamiliar spaces. Uh, they may have a dog that is trained to enter the space, check to see if there are threats, and come back and signal that it's safe to enter. The dog must be off leash to do its job, but uh, may be leashed at other times. Under control means that a service animal should not be allowed to bark repeatedly in a lecture hall, theater, library, or other quiet places. However, if the dog barks just once or barks because someone has provoked it, this would not mean that the dog is out of control.
I just want to clarify as well, guys, for those of you who are entering that don't know what's going on. Just because he's answering with a different answer, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Just so that way we're clear. I just say it differently sometimes.
That would be correct. What I'm doing is I'm giving the ADA answer,
Mm-hmm.
and you giving your answer and giving the ADA answer, you can the listener can compare and know how much you know that you truly do know.
Right, I just wanted to clarify that just because you were answering with something else, that doesn't mean that you're saying that I'm wrong. It's just you're answering per what the ADA says, which is can be a different definition to a certain extent. Mine is just in my own way, was what I meant.
Absolutely. What can my staff do when a service animal is being disruptive?
You can ask them to leave or ask them to gain control of the dog. Well, first you can ask them to gain control of the dog, and if the handler has not taken effective action to gain control of the dog, then you can ask them to leave.
Absolutely. That's pretty straightforward. I'm not gonna read that answer. Are hotel guests allowed to leave their service animals in their hotel rooms when they leave the hotel?
No. Oh, I've heard some instances where people leave their dogs in kennels in the hotel, but usually if it's a service dog, it doesn't get left anyway, so I would say no.
If you are leaving property, no. You have to take the dog with you. Now, here
Yeah.
here's a I'm going to throw a wrench in this one. And see what you think about it. A handler is traveling by themselves. They have their service dog, they have their luggage, they have their crate and all of that. But they they need to get uh, so they take the crate in, and they take the crate, their dog, and they get settled in their room, and they have to, so their hands aren't full. They put the dog in the kennel while they go down to the parking lot and grab the rest of their luggage. Is that
Yeah, they could leave
permissible
the
under
dog in
the
there for
ADA?
that. Yeah, that's fine. I was meaning like it like how I took it as is they were like leaving the room like in like not coming back for a while kind of thing.
Right,
If they're
right,
if for instance if they're going downstairs and grabbing something or going to the car and grabbing something and coming right back, yes, they can leave the dog then. But if they're leaving the area and they're not coming back for a while, then they need to take the dog.
right. What happens if a person thinks a covered entity uh, has discriminated against him or her?
They can make a report to the DOJ.
Bingo. Are stores required to allow service animals to be placed in shopping carts?
Generally, no. Service dogs are supposed to be on the floor, but there are some um, occasions where a service dog could be placed in a shopping cart.
Oh, I'd love to hear this one from you.
Explanation?
Mm-hmm.
There are some instances where people do put their dogs in shopping carts for disability reasons. I don't agree with it. I think that there's no reason why you should um, put a dog in a shopping cart, by the way, but there has been some instances where people have the disability doesn't allow their dog to be on the floor and they have to be near them, so they can put the dog in a shopping cart, but generally no, you can't.
I mean, my recommendation is, I mean, if they have to have the dog in the shopping cart, use a chest pack or one of those baby slings. Still out.
That's what I recommend too.
It's more of, for me, it's more standard. I mean, we set that standard, and as long as we're abiding by the laws and the rules, there is no question.
All right.
Are restaurants, bars, and other places that serve food and drink required to follow service are are required to allow service dog animals to be seated on the chairs or allow the animal to be fed at the table?
No.
That would be correct. Uh, Seating, food, and drink are provided for the customer use only. The ADA provides the person with the disability the right to be accompanied by his or her service animal, but the covered entity are not required to follow or are not required to allow the animal to sit or be fed at the table. That means sit in the chair, or have eat, from on the tabletop. Now, if they want to provide that water that's under the table and allow the dog, that's fine, but it's not required. Matter of fact, I actually turned down, well, depending on the temperature and, you know, how much that we're out, um, I actually have told people, no, like, the dog's fine. But that's just me, though.
Yeah. Answering a quick question, what about treats given to dogs in restaurants? Treats are fine. It just can't be like human food. And I tell people to not feed their dogs like actual dog food while people are eating, but you can give them treats.
Are gyms, fitness centers, hotels, and municipalities that have swimming pools required to allow service animals in the pool with the handler?
In the pool, no, but they are allowed in the pool area by being up on like the docks and stuff like that, like around the pool, but they're not allowed in the pool.
Correct. Miss Noel. Or Noel. I don't know if it's Miss or Mister. You might want to have your ears, on swivel. Are churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, and other places of worship required to allow individuals to bring their service animals into the facility?
No, they are not covered under federal law. They are, it's a separation of church and state.
That would be correct. Religious institutions are specifically exempt from the ADA. However, there may be state laws that apply to religious organizations. So this is actually where I tell my veterans that train their own service dogs. You have the ADA, which is a federal law, federal guideline, and then you have a church or synagogue or institution that is also covered. Whether it be going to the VA, going, uh, I mean, even into federal court. Um, I use the analogy of you have a staff sergeant. Staff sergeant one, which is the ADA. You have staff sergeant two, which is the other federal entity. Staff Sergeant 1 says, "Hey, I'm bringing my service dog in here." Staff Sergeant 2, because they're the same rank, they can honestly say, not only no, but hell no, are you doing that? And there's nothing that Staff Sergeant 1 could do. Now, if it was a staff sergeant and a regular sergeant, that's where it's a little bit different. So, are they on the same level, same rank? From that standpoint, where you could think about it. Do apartments, mobile home parks, and other residential properties have to comply with the ADA?
That's a trick question. Because they mainly are covered under the Fair Housing Act rather than the ADA. Because ADA deals with public. I'm going to go with no. Because it's Fair Housing Act that covers them.
The ADA applies to housing programs administered by state and local
Ah, I got it
governments.
wrong, guys. I got it wrong. Oh, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert, guys. I got it wrong.
Such as
Ah,
public housing authorities, and by place of public accommodation, such as public and private universities. In addition, the Fair Housing Act applies to virtually all type of housing,
that's
both public
that's what
and
I
private
said
owned.
though. It's mainly under the Fair Housing Act that would apply to them, but I guess that they kind of like joint together. So I kind of got it right a little bit. I got a half right. We'll do a half a point for that one.
Well, you didn't actually hear what I was gonna say. I mean, I could mark it wrong for you if you wanted me to.
Oh, going ahead.
The Fair Housing Act applies to virtually all type of housing, both public and privately owned, including housing covered by the ADA. Under the Fair Housing Act, housing providers are obligated to permit such a reasonable accommodation, the use of animals that work, provide assistance, or perform tasks that benefit persons with disability or provide emotional support to alleviate the symptom or effect of a disability. For information about the Fair Housing Act requirements, see HUD Notice of Service Animals and Assistance Animals, you know. But yes, I don't think you got that wrong, in my opinion.
Because I did say no. I have four of them, Christina. This is my emotional support animal that's with me.
Do federal agencies such as the Department of Veterans Affairs have to comply with the ADA?
If they're open to the public, yes, like anyone can and from the public can go into them. But since they're usually there would be under the Rehabilitation Act, so that's a yes and no. It's depending.
You want to rethink that?
I know it's the Rehabilitation Act that covers mainly federal stuff, such as federal buildings, but the VA isn't really public, though, as far as I'm aware. Only you can only go there via appointment, and if you're part of the military. Am I wrong? Because as far as I'm
No.
aware, like it's under the Rehabilitation Act.
Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, the federal law that protects the rights of people with disabilities are participate in federal programs and services. But that also goes back to rank. Staff Sergeant 1 versus Staff Sergeant 2.
Yeah, so
Federal
I was
guy.
right.
You were right.
You're making me anxious, bro. Just tell me I'm right.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when your ass ends up in court.
Gosh, he's giving me anxiety, guys.
Do commercial airlines have to comply with the ADA?
No, it's the Air Carrier Act.
Bingo. The federal law that protects the rights of people with disabilities in air travel. For information, Department of Transportation Aviation Consumer Protection Division at blah 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 blah. All right, last question, and it's probably the most important question. And if you miss it, I'm gonna be appalled.
Okay.
Are you glad you're done?
Hmm?
Are you glad you're finished?
Well, I'm waiting for the last question.
That was the last question. Are you glad you're finished?
Oh. I mean, it wasn't that hard. What? So I got what? How, like, one wrong, maybe? Or you
Maybe.
didn't count that wrong? It was kind of iffy. Because I kind of did say it, but at the same time, I did say no at the beginning.
Well, there was one. I think it was like question 2 or 3 that I asked, and I was like, "Try again." You know, I might have, I might would have counted that wrong, and then the one or with the HUD question, I'm like, "Yep, nope, that's like I
That
wouldn't
one, yeah, that was the one that I.
I wouldn't necessarily say that you got the HUD question wrong because it's uh you cut me off before I gave the full reasoning behind it.
Because, well, my thing with the whole, like, trailer park and stuff like that, that was under the fair housing. It didn't really go under the ADA, but I guess it does. So.
Yep. Alrighty. I guess we open it up for questions, concerns.
Yeah, does anybody have any quick questions before we head off for the night? I know somebody asked about my cats. I got two tabby cats, two black cats in my household. The cat is with me. That is Jasper. He is my emotional support animal. And yes, Leo is here as well. Sit.
Aww.
I know, you're ready for bed. I know. Leo's telling me it's time for bed. You guys are keeping me from his bedtime. Tell him. Say, how dare you keep my mother from bedtime? I want my snuggles.
That's awesome. So there's no questions that y'all would have for me or for a service dog educator.
I don't know if you guys can see him very well. Here, hang on. Where did you go? There you are. Leo, sit.
I thought
Hey,
Leo
hi.
was a German Shepherd.
No, that's Dallas. That's my son's dog.
Gotcha.
Dallas, I believe is in here by the door. Dallas. Come here, Bubba. Come here, Dada. Oh, we got Ella in here too now. Come here, Bubba. Dallas, sits. Sits. Yeah, I know, you're getting old. My dad said down.
Aww.
That's my son's dog.
Aww. Alrighty. I don't see any questions come through.
I don't either.
So, alrighty. You want to do it or me?
Come on now. That's Ella. Oh, Leo. Guys, so this was the Beyond the Leash podcast this week. I know it was a little bit different, not as much as you guys were expecting to go over topics and whatnot. We will resume podcast next week with the regular scheduled podcast, as always, doing topics and whatnot. But we appreciate you listening into the podcast today and knowing that I definitely do know my shit. Well, what do you think, Tuvich? Should we still call me an expert, even though I missed maybe like 1.5 to 3 questions?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, you're an expert.
And what would that be? Like a 97 out of 100?
98.
96?
I would say 98 out of 100. 98.
Yeah, so we got 98 out of 100. I mean, you can't expect everybody to get every single answer right all the time. Um, and everything. Plus, I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm extremely tired. And that was a lot of questions, people. Like, what? That was like all 38?
37.
So that's a lot. That's a lot. 37. There you go. 37 questions right there. And I only got, what, 2 to 3 wrong? Like, come on. Y'all got to give me a little bit of pat
Yeah.
on the back. Give me a little ego boost.
The only
Um,
question that I would the only question that I would ask is there any breaking news?
no, not today. Hey,
Or
well, I'm trying to think. I think we did see something, but I can't remember it now. I do have a question on something I need help with. If it deals with training, we cannot answer it on a live. But if it deals with ADA, you can definitely either DM me or send it right now before we get off for the night. Zelda knows about it. Okay. Like I said, you can DM me if you don't want to put it in the comments. But if it's training, there's nothing I can do to help you on that one. I mean, it's about police dogs going for my service dogs in the mall. So that you would have to make a report to your police station about. And if the dogs did end up going at your service dog and causing damage to it, you can sue the police department for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, husband's playing a game.
You're good.
I if I didn't answer your question enough, it sent me into a medical episode as well. Yeah, my biggest thing that I tell people is if you don't have to go to the mall, don't go to it, especially if there's issues such as like police canines there that are not reliably trained or fake service dogs. If you don't have to go there, don't go there. But also, if something does happen to the dog, you can sue the police department for it as well. But with that being said, guys, if there's any questions that I didn't get a chance to answer and you were wondering about something, you can always DM me. My DMs are always open. I do have to start getting running. I have been up since 5 o'clock this morning. I am tired. I need to get some sleep because I have to get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow as well. Yay! So happy. But I will be live tomorrow morning if you guys are wanting to. Just checking. I also go back to the mall and ask for recording for the security cameras as I will show as proof. Yeah, you can. You can do that. I don't know if they'll guarantee it without like a court order, but yeah, you can definitely ask for it. But thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. We will be.
So I did work for a mall whenever I was in law enforcement. They normally do not turn over video unless it's to an attorney or a subpoena, for whatever reason. In that case, you're gonna have to lawyer up, to get it. Unfortunately, I know it's not something you want to hear, but those are just the rules. But
When the dog goes out really quick. Thank you guys so much for joining into the podcast this week. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys leave a comment down in the video down below. Also, hit the follow button on our Beyond the Leash podcast that you're watching this out now on. Also, follow the TikTok channel of Beyond the Leash. Follow my other TikTok channel, Handlers Rights and Beyond. Had to think of the name for a second. And my main channel, Service Dog Educator 24 at TikTok. Also follow the Instagram of the podcast and the Facebook of the podcast as well. And if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a quick comment, and we will see you guys next week with another video. Thank you so much for Austin joining us today. Make sure you guys check out his pages as well on TikTok, Austin Bentley, and his program as well, Two Vets K9. He's an amazing individual and we love him so much, and we are so glad to have him here again for another episode of the podcast. And we will see you guys next week with another video. Good night, everybody. Okay, end the podcast there. To those of you who are still watching, we will be doing the podcast next week. And I will be live tomorrow in the morning. So make sure you guys join in the morning time for another podcast tomorrow. And I will be back very, very soon. But I'm going to go get some sleep. Two Vets, thank you for doing this for me. I know you have probably had a million other things to do today, but I appreciate it.
Do you want to do my outro or you want me to do it?
I'm going to let you do it. You're the OG.
Well, there was nobody in the box other than me and the host, but so I'll just, we enjoyed seeing you today. Don't forget to be awesome and always always, always, always know that you're loved. Until next time.
Good night, everybody. Sleep tight. Train your service dogs if you haven't already, even though it's like 10 o'clock at night. Still train your service dogs. Get that work in. See you guys tomorrow morning with another live at like, I want to say 10:30. Yeah, 10:30 Central Time. But I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Good night. Much love, appreciation.
Have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong.